last question, I guess. Which is worse, black flies, mosquitoes, or no-see-ums?
I think no-see-ums are worse. And, we always, people say, how are the bugs? And we always say horrendous, even when they weren't. Just because we don't want to encourage people to go.
Believe it or not, this is the 50th year of the Allagash Wilderness Waterway. Today, on Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine, we'll learn about two big celebrations that you might want to put on your calendar right now. One's at Churchill Dam in July, the other is in the town of Allagash in August. Stand by for details. Then, we'll chat with a guy who has done the Allagash more times than anybody I know, except for some professional guides. Ted Kaufman has made almost every mistake there is, so we'll see what he's learned from all this. Plus, at the end of today's show, you'll find out why the Bar Harbor Whale Watch boat is coming up the Penobscot River all the way to Bangor. Boy, is that going to surprise a lot of people who don't listen to this show. Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine is brought to you by Hammond Lumber, Supercuts, Doors Equipment, Napa Auto Parts, and EBS. Now that if we're going to talk Allagash, let's go straight to the top. Matt LaRoche is Allagash Superintendent. Matt, welcome to Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine.
Well, glad to be here.
So there's a 50th anniversary celebration of the Allagash coming up, and I wanted to get you on the air so we can talk about this, because this is big enough that people should start to put it on their calendar and save the weekends.
That is right. It's going to be a big event. In fact, the one at Churchill we thought was actually going to be more of a fun event, and we have a second one planned for the town of Allagash in August 20th. But this one at Churchill is coming up pretty soon. And if you want to come up, people should, right, you got to be prepared for it. It's a long way from anywhere, basically 60 miles in at Churchill Dam in the woods.
Yeah, it'll be on Saturday, Saturday, right? July 23rd?
Saturday, July 23rd.
And that starts at 8 in the morning and goes till dusk. That is a lot of activities.
There is. We got, so basically in the morning we're going to have some outfitters there. They're going to have canoes, and people could run Chase Rapids. And the outfitters will bring them up from the halfway point on the rapids, so that'll be available. So you don't have to bring your own canoe. There'll be some canoes there to use, or you could paddle up on the lake if you're not, a good enough paddler to go down the rapids. So that's going to be going on. We're going to have what we're really excited about is this Lombard log hauler that's going to come on loan to us from Ray Breton down in Vassalboro. And we're going to run that Lombard log hauler a few times during the day. That ought to get everybody's attention.
Yes, it should, because those are loud.
They are, and they're loud all over. The motor's loud, and all the squeakiness and everything that's going to go on. But it's like I've been working in the woods for 40 years and never actually seen one run, so it's going to be quite a treat even for me. And one of the other things that we're pretty happy with, the Madawaska Historical Society is bringing up their bateau. We're going to put that in the water and row people up on the lake in front of Churchill Dam, and we're not going to bring that one down the rapids, but but that's going to be there. And actually, the town of Allagash has one that they're going to have at their celebration in August. But and as the day goes on, we're going to have quite a few things. There's going to be a blacksmith demonstration. There's going to be bateau rides, and one of the other big things we're going to have is a beanhole bean supper. And that's open to the public at no cost. We're going to take donations for that, and we're going to have a band at the end of the day. A Boy Scout troop from Caribou, I can't remember their number right now. They're going to do a flag ceremony at the end of the day.
Now, at Churchill Dam, there's actually old boarding houses, I think, and other facilities there that people can tour if they've never been there, which really explains the history of logging in that area.
Right. At one time, that was in the 20s. That was the hub of the logging activity on the headwater lakes of the Allagash. It was King LaCroix. He was a Canadian. There was a road in from Lac Frontier into Churchill Dam. That was the only road in. And that boarding house would be. They had loggers would stay there, and other people that worked in the woods industry. We are going to have that cleaned up and give tours of that. And we have a history center there. We're going to give tours of that too. One of the sporting camp operators is going to give some fly fishing demonstration. We're going to have a water drop. The Maine Forest Service is going to have the helicopter there, do a little bit of a water dropping demonstration, and we'll have Smokey there and a fire truck, and there'll be something for everybody. They're at town of Allagash, but we invited them to come up to run a small concession during the day if people want water or snacks or something. But the big event is going to be the bean supper at about 6 o'clock.
Yeah, when I look down the calendar of events, I see things like the helicopter water dropping, fire truck demonstration, the Lombard log hauler. All these things are going to really surprise people who thought they were going up there for peace and tranquility.
Well, that day is going to be a little bit not as tranquil as it normally is, but it's a one-day event. We wanted to do something in the waterway to celebrate the 50th, and this is what it actually is growing bigger than we thought. I thought initially we thought we'd have maybe 200 people, but I think we're going to prepare for more like 500 people. Just to make sure we get enough groceries to go around and all that.
Yeah, planning that because I think I'm coming up too. This sounds too good to miss.
All right, so that's great. It is. Be advised, it's a long way in there. There's different routes coming from the south, in from Millinocket up to Telos, or in from Ashland from the east, and you need good tires up there. Sometimes the roads are pretty hard on tires, and just bring a vehicle with good clearance and good tires. You shouldn't have any issues. There is going to be signage in, so there's going to be more signage than normal, so people can not get lost on those logging roads.
I love those logging roads. I'm up there all the time, and the last time I think I was in there at the end of last year, I blew a tire.
Oh yeah.
So now I have a full spare tire, not just those little stupid donuts. I throw one in the back of the car when I'm heading up there.
I saw the other day when I came through at Telos checkpoint, they had tire plug kits. So I mean that's for what they cost, $10. It's pretty good insurance, but of course you got to have a little 12-volt compressor or something.
Yeah.
Sometimes that'll bail you out pretty good, that little plug kit.
Now, you got to handle a lot of people who are probably going to stay overnight in the area or at some of the local camps. So what are the preparations being made for that?
Well, we obviously already have a campsite right there across from the ranger station, but there's a pretty big field between the ranger station and the barn, and we're going to open that up to camping and put some picnic tables out there and have a big community fire, which will be a bonfire in the evening when the music is going on. So other than that, there's sporting camps in the area. You can go online, Maine Sporting Camp Association, and if you don't want to sleep on the ground, and the North Maine Woods campsites in the area. We think we'll have enough space there for everybody to pitch a tent. And
yeah. What about over at Chamberlain Bridge? Is there going to be a lot of additional camping set up there?
Chamberlain Bridge is quite a ways away. It's like an hour and a half drive, so people could stay there. I guess when the field gets, if it gets full, we'll direct people to other camps, other opportunities to camp in the area. And there is quite a few, and even over to Clayton Lake, if things get real full, we can divert people over there, which isn't too awful far away. Mm-hmm.
So that's the Churchill Dam celebration.
Yes.
When I look down the list of events that the town of Allagash is doing, it's really a very different event. There's a lot more historic stuff. There's more engagement with the community, since there actually is a community.
Right. Yeah, they've really embraced it. When I first talked to them, they said, yes, we want to be involved, and they're going to open up their community. They have a municipal building, used to be the old school, and they got it pretty nice, and they're going to open that up. We're going to have some stakeholder booths there. Like most of the landowners that are around us are going to have booths there, and North Maine Woods, and the Allagash Wilderness Waterway Foundation, and a bunch of stakeholder groups will have booths there. Irving, and we're going to have some old film footage. We're going to show most of the day in the old gym, so people just want to go and see some historic films. They can sit right in the gym and watch those. And they have a museum in Dickey. They're going to open up for that, and like I said, they're going to have their bateau in the river, because it is going to be on August 20th, so the river could be low. If it's high enough, they're going to have that bateau in the river, so people can go in that. And like I said, we're going to have our same Lombard up at Mitchell Farm Ranger Station, and a blacksmith demonstration up there, and we're going to bring some of our artifacts down there to have on the lawn there at Mitchell Farm. And we got a special group up there, really pretty good group called Fiddleheads. We've arranged to have them play in the evening, and another flag ceremony at the end of the day there. I did hope to get Senator Collins up there, and she hasn't committed yet, but maybe she'll be listening and she'll come up. I mean, I actually invited Senator King, Senator Collins, and Governor LePage, and none of them have confirmed yet. So that was the one. I said the guest speakers right now are going to be myself and Commissioner Whitcomb. So hopefully we'll get somebody with some political clout up there to address the people. So
Bruce Pollockman will go to the opening of an envelope. So you can always try that.
Okay.
But that's, again, another day-long event. It's August 20th in town of Allagash from 9 a.m. until dark.
Right.
So that's, 50 years of the Allagash is actually pretty amazing.
Yeah, I think we've made, I actually started work up there in 1976 and didn't really know how young it was. I mean, I think that the state has done a pretty good job of keeping the wilderness component up there and actually making it more remote by removing a bunch of buildings, and it's a pretty popular canoe trip, and it's a great fishing area, and it's not developed. I think if the state wouldn't have came in there and bought the area, there'd be a lot of private camps up there and a lot of no trespassing signs. So it's not. It's open to the public, and I think it's been a good thing over the years.
Yeah, I've just recently got back from a trip to Michigan where I was doing some birding. And one of the things that struck me about that area is that just about everything is off limits. Private land is just always posted, or it's expected you're not allowed to go on private land, even if it's not posted. We just take for granted sometimes how accessible our woods are.
Yeah, I mean, even the part that's not state-owned, I mean, the North Maine woods, I mean, for the relatively small fee, you got 3.2 million acres. You can go drive around on back roads and hunt birds and deer and pick mushrooms, whatever your thing is. It's open, which has been a tribute to the major landowners in the state and what they've done over the years.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculously cheap. When I go to the checkpoint, I just throw my money at them, say, here, take as much as you want. I'm going to go have some fun.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Matt LaRoche is Allagash Superintendent. The dates to save are July 23rd for the celebration at Churchill Dam and August 20th in the town of Allagash. Up next, we'll talk with a guy who paddles the Allagash on average more than once a year and has been doing it since the 70s. Surely he's learned some lessons during all those adventures. Ted Kaufman is up next when Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine continues on Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. Welcome back to Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine on Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. It's the 50th anniversary of the Allagash Wilderness Waterway. You could have paddled the river every year for the last half-century and still not paddled it as much as my next guest. Ted Kaufman managed some of the programs at the College of the Atlantic for many years. He and I served together for 4 years in the Maine House of Representatives, and he's running for the Senate this year. And he was also most recently the executive director of Maine Audubon. There are plenty of professional guides who have done the Allagash numerous times, but I don't know many private citizens who have done the river more times than Ted Kaufman. So, Ted, how many times have you done the river?
Well, I keep losing count when I try and do it. It's over 55.
Over 55?
Over 55 trips. My first trip was in 1976 with a group of students from College of the Atlantic, and I think I probably did at least 25, close to 25 trips with students, and certainly 25 with some of my male buddies. So I was doing a June trip every year and doing, since the early 80s, and a fall trip with students. And so I've gotten to know, I've spent about a year of my life now on the Allagash.
Well, if you're doing it more than once a year, which many years you did, that's like at least 2 weeks every single year out of 52. So
yeah, that's true.
That's kind of nuts, isn't it?
Well, it is a bit of a problem that I don't get out that often. So I keep going to the same place, partly because I'm comfortable with it, and there are very few surprises. Usually weather related, like a severe thunderstorm or something like that really shakes you up. But most of the time, you know where you're headed, and you know where the campsites are, and you can time things. Especially when you have guests with you, you want to make sure it's comfortable and they get to camp early enough to have a meal.
Well, the Allagash became a federally designated wilderness waterway 50 years ago this year. Were you there?
No, I wasn't quite there. My first trip was 70, but not so late. It was about 1976.
Yeah.
There was at one of the gates. There was a Franco-American wilderness waterway employee, and this was about 10 years after the waterway was created. And of course, there was some tensions around the creation of the waterway. There were a number of private properties that were taken by eminent domain, etc. And this fellow said, well, you know, before the waterway was created, I used to just sneak in any place I wanted to. I wasn't going to go through any gates. And then he said, but then they hired me. and he said, now I understand why we want people to go through the gates. And he was a great guy. He was a great guy. So, yeah, and the waterway hasn't changed a great deal, I don't think, although the number of access points has increased over the years.
Well, certainly we never have any controversy these days about federal involvement in the North Maine woods.
Right.
I figured I could talk to the Allagash superintendent, which I actually did, and I can talk to professional guides about the mistakes people make. But I figured at this point you've made all the mistakes. Why don't I just ask you?
Sure. Okay.
Well,
you know, one of the mistakes, I don't know if it was a mistake, but now that I've experienced dealing with really difficult water on the Allagash Stream, coming from Allagash Lake down into Chamberlain Lake. I've been down it a number of times. We're probably going to do it again. However, we're going to make sure we understand the water levels before we attempt it. Because when you have a lot of spring rain, as we did about 3 years ago, you know, my stomach was in my throat going down that. We ended up having to bushwhack through the woods with all of our gear to get around one of the bends. It was just too much. We would have wiped out our canoes and all our gear. So you have to be careful about, you know, understanding water levels. It's almost never too shallow, in my opinion. But in certain areas, it can be a little difficult if you...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And certainly, you know, you and I aren't getting any older, but a lot of people are. And some of these conditions may be the same as they have been for years, but people's abilities aren't up to what they used to be.
Well, isn't that the truth? I had a good friend who passed on, but he was in his early 70s when we were on the Allagash. He wanted to have one big trip before it was over, and we went out on Chamberlain, actually, after going down Allagash Stream, and the stream was very mild, reasonably low. But when we got onto the Chamberlain Lake, the waves were howling. It was something over 20 miles of wind coming down the lake, and this always is a challenge. If you're in a group, you've got to think about the weakest link in the chain, and the weakest paddler, the less strong paddler or less experienced paddler. Once you commit to going across a lake against, you know, serious waves and chilly water, you're really taking a terrible risk, I think. And I've done some stupid things in the past that way, and I'm much more cautious and determined to not make attempts, even though it might be convenient to get to the other side. It could also be a tragedy, too.
Yeah. Do you ever look at the other people in your party and just know that one of those canoes is going to be trouble?
Yes.
Yeah. What signs do you look for?
Well, you know, whether they can paddle, whether the person in the stern can paddle straight without the person in the bow doing anything, and can paddle in the stern without having to go back and forth, you know, as you sometimes see. And, you know, it's the typical thing of people paddling on the same side, you know, which putting too much weight on the gunnel on one side, this can be a problem. And how you handle the boat in terms of the angle your boat is to the waves as you're moving along. You know, I tend to want to paddle fairly close to shore when there's strong winds. So if anything does go wrong, well, most of the time you're likely to get your gear washed up on shore rather than you and your gear floating for a couple of miles down a lake.
Yeah.
One qualification is that my trip with my friends, most of them are experienced paddlers. It's with, and I take the students that I have sometimes students who have never been in a canoe, and we're going to go down Chase Rapids. So I drill them on various canoe strokes and maneuvers and things. I went on one trip with my daughter, who was 14, and my niece, who was about the same age. And when I was in the big school bus taking everybody up to the trip, I said, well, how many of you have you been paddling before? And I should have known this ahead of time, but I was in one of those rushed times when I was in the legislature. And no hands went up. only my daughter and my niece. And I thought, oh, brother. So anyway, we got to the start of Chase Rapids, and I had my daughter in the stern of one boat and my niece the stern in the other boat. And I took the weakest kids, and a kid in my boat, and I watched them go over the chute heading down Chase Rapids. And I was so proud of them, these teenagers. But, yeah, you have to be pretty careful with beginners. But, my father was 76 when he went down with a 12-year-old in the bow. And generally speaking, if you keep your boat going straight, you don't get yourself broadside on a rock, and make sure you don't lean into the water, into the current, and roll the boat, generally speaking, it's forgiving.
Yeah, I would think that adults and children paddling together probably isn't all that challenging. It's husbands and wives that are the problem.
There you've got it.
Yeah.
There you've got it. Yeah. And I've paddled it solo, and so has a couple of my buddies. So it can be. It's not that difficult if you can, and you learn to read the river. You can, especially when it's lower, the channels are more prominent, more obvious. Places you can go and not go, and make your way through. But you learn to read the river and anticipate, looking ahead. Where do I want to go next? And after I go by that rock, where do I want to turn next? And that sort of thing. And I like the challenge.
The guy who likes the challenge is Ted Kaufman. He's paddled the Allagash more than once a year since 1976. When you take the challenge that many times, you can expect a lot of adventures and misadventures. Up next, what is the most important thing Ted ever forgot to bring along? The answer may surprise you, but I'll bet you agree. This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine on Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine on Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. Saturday mornings at 9, Sunday mornings at 8. The Allagash Wilderness Waterway is 50 years old. There are guides who have paddled the river many times, of course, but few civilians make it a habit to paddle at least once a year. Ted Kaufman has averaged more than once a year, enough times to make every mistake there is to make. So, Ted, what is the most important thing you ever forgot to bring?
Oh, my goodness. Oh, the most important thing, Bob, that I did was when we shopped the day before the trip, we have a long list, of course. It's 6 guys, sometimes 4 to 6 guys, and we're hungry and we eat well. So we divide up the shopping list in the grocery store, and everybody goes with a cart and does their job. And part of my job was to get the coffee, and I got the coffee, but I forgot to grind it. Now,
mashing that with a rock is not going to work.
Well, that's exactly what I had to do, and I got up the first morning of our first day, out on the trip, and I opened the bag, and I realized all the bags of coffee were unground, and I went out and found, everybody was asleep, but I found a fairly cupped, mortise and what's the word?
Pestle.
Yes.
Mortar and pestle.
Yes, and pestle, and I started to grind with, it took a while, like 45 minutes to grind enough to make coffee, but I'll never have that experience again.
What vital, irreplaceable piece of gear breaks most often?
Oh boy, it might be, but break it often. But the thing I don't want to have break, and I bring a spare blade, is my saw, because you need to saw your wood up for your fire. You want to have an axe, and we always have 2 in case one breaks. Breaking. Maybe a paddle, or your pole if you've got a pitch pole. I can't think of anything else that normally would break. There's things you could forget. That's the bigger one, is forgetting.
Do you know how many times I've forgotten to bring tent poles? I bring the tent, but forget the poles.
Absolutely. Oh my. Yeah, and you can't have, I don't think, too much line to get your tarp established. Over the tarp pole, over the picnic tables and the campsites, which are very handy. I mean, this isn't roughing it in a real sense. You're not creating a campsite on the shore. There's a campsite there. There's an outhouse. There's a nice fireplace, and usually with a grill. But still in all, you want to be comfortable.
Yeah.
And, you put your ropes up on your tarp, and occasionally, almost every trip, there's a blow at least 1 or 2 days where your tarp is billowing off over the top of the picnic table, and it looks like you're going to be like Mary Poppins and float into the sky. Or a moose will go through and catch some of those ropes and they just go snap, 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 snap like they're pieces of string. But anyway, we've had a lot of good adventures, and I think the biggest worry for me most of the time is thunderstorms, and with it sometimes those microblasts. But microblasts don't come to you very often. But when they do, they're really ferocious.
Have you ever had a trip that was like 7 straight days of rain?
Yes.
How often does that happen?
Well, very rarely.
Yeah.
But you might have rain or overcast a lot of the time. And in this case, I had a student who had a great sense of humor and storytelling skills. And it was a show every day. Under the blue tarp was this wonderful, funny guy who would keep us all entertained. But being outdoors is and having you have a fire tarp over the fire. You get plenty of wood, so it gets a little smoky, but you get along and have a good time.
Now you can make progress in rain, but 7 days of a headwind could be a real problem because basically you put in at the beginning, you got to take out at the end, and somehow you have to get from here to there.
That's true, and you need to plan your trip accordingly, or. Well, sometimes the winds are going day and night, but often they die at night sometime, and they're very quiet in the morning. And you don't want to waste any time if you're pressed for time. You want to get out on the water when it's calm and get going. You're right when you said earlier about getting older. When you've got a headwind and a full canoe, it gets really tiring paddling against those waves for hours. So I'll have to see how far I can get. But I think I've got another 10 years in me anyway.
Yeah. Well, I mean, getting an early start in the morning is difficult when you have to spend 45 minutes grinding coffee.
Yeah, and you want to make sure there are a number of places to get spring water.
Yeah,
which is great, and we've never had any stomach problems from the spring water that comes out of springs that the guides and the rangers manage. But otherwise, you want to pump your water through a filter.
How many days of free time do you build into your trip so that you know you're going to be able to make it if the weather's bad?
I'd say no more than a day.
Yeah,
just a week trip.
Yeah, figure an extra day just in case.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and the nice thing about the extra day is there's usually there are some sites that are really pleasant, especially pleasant. And if you're doing well and the forecasts are good and the rangers can tell you what's forecasting and stuff, it's fun to spend a second night and just relax at a site instead of feeling like a gypsy that you have to pick up your tent every morning and get going. So some people think it's just fun to go up to Allagash Lake and stay in one or two sites on the lake for a week, and that's fine. But we tend to want to do 65, 75 miles of maybe 70 miles in a trip, and but even still, we get off at let's say 8:30 in the morning and with a good breakfast, and we are off the river by 3 o'clock usually, and we're not paddling madly to get to the next campsite. So it's a nice trip, and it's a mix of lake water and slow river water, and then nice rips, not class 4 or 3, but class 2 or less, and enough challenge to pay attention and have some excitement, but not overwhelming. It's a very friendly place to learn how to paddle and to take guests who are not very experienced.
My guest is Ted Kaufman, who has paddled the Allagash more than 50 times. Now, that may not be a big number for a guide, but it is for somebody who's had to squeeze it in between his former duties at the College of the Atlantic His service as Executive Director of Maine Audubon and his 8 years of public service in the Maine House of Representatives. Well, up next, how often do you paddle all day and then find your favorite campsite already taken? Plus, the Bar Harbor Whale Watch boat is going to steam up the Penobscot River to Bangor later on this summer. Zach Cliver will tell us why in just a few minutes. This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine on Sports Radio 92.9 The Ticket. This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine on Sports Radio 92.9 The Ticket. It's the 50th anniversary of the Allagash Wilderness Waterway. Ted Kaufman has paddled it at least 55 times. It used to be that the river was more heavily traveled than it is now. All of us baby boomers got a little older and don't do it as much as we might have 25 years ago. Still, I gotta wonder, Ted, how often do you paddle all day only to find your favorite campsite taken?
That is a problem.
Yeah.
And some of the sites are double sites with 2 fireplaces, 2 picnic tables. So you just, if it's late enough, or if it's a really nice site and you want to be there, then you just pack into that site. But we have had, of course, in the summer, it's not too big a deal because you can keep paddling in later into the early evening, although you may not want to. But there's usually that campsite another 5 miles or something upstream or downstream. And so that in the fall, it's not as busy, so you really don't run into it too often.
How often do you have a challenge with moose coming through the campsite? Because you mentioned that earlier.
Yes, there are some good sites. A place called Schofield Point is one of our favorite sites. And another one's called Ziegler. And another one is Thoreau site on Pillsbury Island, among others, other good sites. And the one at Schofield Point has a lovely marsh. You'd love it, Bob. It's have you done the Allagash yet?
Oh, geez, you've outed me. I have not. This has been.
Wow.
This is like so close to the top of my bucket list.
Oh boy! Well, we'd love to have you come along. And I have Paul Hartel, who's a retired superintendent of Acadia and of many other places in the country. And he and I like to do the birding stuff, and everybody's interested in them, but he and I always end up way behind everybody because we got to find that bird, you know. But it's good birding territory. I think you'd enjoy it.
Well, I get up in the woods a lot just for that very reason. So I've been all around the Allagash, just not in it.
Yeah, there you will love it. Yeah. You really will. So hopefully you'll be able to join us or some group of friends who've been on the water.
All right. Well, last question, I guess. Which is worse, black flies, mosquitoes, or no-see-ums?
I think no-see-ums are worse. And, we always, people say, how are the bugs? And we always say horrendous, even when they weren't. Just because we don't want to encourage people to go. But, and we did go, most of us went to the Canadian bug shirt. You know the Canadian bug shirt?
Yes.
Yeah. And that, I never wore that sort of thing, but that's a really good piece of equipment. It makes you much more comfortable when they're ferocious, and you're trying to fix dinner and put your tent up and stuff. But anyway.
Yeah. At this point in life, when I was much younger, maybe I should have been concerned about the various poisons I was using to keep bugs off me, but now I've survived to this age, and what the hell?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But we see moose often in campsites or along the shore. It's fun at night when you're asleep, and then you hear ka-plump, 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 and he's marching along the shore or walking through your tent site in the dark. It's a good experience. We see bear crossing the river, but not often. But we had one last year, and I've seen a pine marten swimming across the stream, coming right toward me until he realized I wasn't a tree, and then he swam around my legs as I was fishing in the river. It's a good experience.
Now, you mentioned bears. I'm assuming that even in 55 trips, you've never had a bear steal your picnic basket?
No. One of the good things is that people carry their garbage out, which wasn't the case when I first started camping with my father. Each campsite had a dump, and people would throw their scraps and their old cans
So do you have plans to do the Allagash this year?
We're going June, the day after the primary.
That should work.
Win or lose, I'm going to be a winner.
There you go. If you've just joined us, Ted Kaufman and I have been talking about the 50th anniversary of the Allagash Wilderness Waterway and his 55 trips down the river. The reference to the primary is that Ted is running for the Maine Senate in Hancock County. Up next, Bar Harbor Whale Watch is about to do something they've never done before, and it's going to surprise a lot of people who see it. You can be on that boat when it happens. Zach Cliver will explain it all when Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine continues on Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. Welcome back to Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine on Sports Radio 92.9, The Ticket. This September, a big, fast catamaran from Bar Harbor Whale Watch is going to do something they've never done before, and you can be on the boat when it happens. I will be. Zach Cliver is chief naturalist and has been for many years, so let's grab a moment and find out what's going on. Zach Cliver, Bar Harbor Whale Watch, welcome back to Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine.
Hey, it's great to be here always.
No, it's not. Not always. Don't kid yourself. Look, the Whale Watch season is starting. Are you ready?
Yeah, we are ready.
Yeah.
We did our first trip yesterday, and we're excited. We have a great season planned.
Well, the Friendship 5 sits all winter. How long does it take to get the musty smell out?
Well, the crew have been working a lot of long days, I can tell you that. There is a lot that has to get done to maintain all those boats. You take them out of the water, and there's engines, there's painting, there's a lot of things to do. So, yeah, a big amount of effort goes into getting those boats ready quickly and a lot of long days. And I think it's underappreciated, by a lot of us that are just guiding the trips. But I'm well aware that they work really hard. And
furthermore, there's not a lot of easy labor to come by the way there might be later on in summer when, kids are out of school, college of the Atlantic.
It's very true. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, the season must start a little slow. There aren't that many people around yet, and there aren't really that many whales around yet. So, how does all this work? How does the seasonality operate for you?
Yeah, well, we do start slow and then ramp up, and we start with just one whale watch a day, one nature cruise, one lobster tour, one lighthouse tour, and then we build up. And in the peak of the season, on some days we might do 5 whale watch trips. So that's our plan this year. We have seen a lot of people in Bar Harbor because of the Acadia National Park's 100th anniversary. And it seems like May has been really busy. So I think it's going to be a really busy season for us. I
think it's going to be a huge season for the Bar Harbor Acadia National Park area because of that 100th. Are you ready for that?
Yeah. I think the biggest challenge, of course, in Bar Harbor is always parking. But we,
oh, you think?
But we have a great Explorer bus system, and I hope people take advantage of it. And commuters can actually now park in Trenton and commute in on the Friends of Acadia and Explorer bus system, which is free. So that's a wonderful service. And so, yeah, I think it's going to be a great,
season,
really great season.
Something I don't think I've ever asked you is, when do the whales really pick up? Because some of them are coming here. They haven't necessarily arrived early in the season. So how do you handle that?
Yeah. Well, in the spring, they're making their way up into the Bay of Fundy and Gulf of Maine, and we do get reports of them going by. They're really dependent on food, and at this time of year, there is a lot of sand lance to the south of us, and the herring are still making their way up. So there was an aerial survey that was done by NOAA Fisheries the other day, and they saw 147 humpbacks at Great South Channel down on the elbow of the Cape. Recently, they did a survey at Cassius Ledge, which is a lot closer, just 90 miles. They had 27 whales, quite a variety of whales. And yesterday, we got a report from a fisherman of 3 humpbacks at the Rock. So they're coming this way. Yep, they're coming.
Well, I do have a point to make here. How many people does Bar Harbor Whale Watch serve in a year? Do you know?
Yeah, we take about 50 to 60,000 people on the whale watch trips. 20,000 of those people go to see puffins at Petite Mignon, and then we take an additional about 50,000 people on the other tours that we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 50 to 60,000 people, like twice the population of Bangor.
Yeah.
The point I want to make is this is all to see nature and wildlife. When we talk about how do you boost Maine's economy, what are the opportunities? You look at Bar Harbor Whale Watch and say, look, 50 to 60,000 customers bringing their money into the area.
Absolutely, and those people are, a lot of them coming here specifically for that. We hear from them on the boat that they plan their vacation around wildlife, and they, or whales, or lighthouses, and they, that's their goal, when they come. So I think, or for the birders, it's the seabirds, getting out to the seabird islands. Then when they're here, they're staying at a hotel, they're buying gas, they're all those things. It's an exponential value, and it's sustainable. It's not taking any resource. So we're excited to see that our industry grow in Maine. And we just had a conference that was 3 days in Bar Harbor, and we invited all the other whale watch companies that we could get a hold of from Maine to come and participate. We really want to work with the industry to see it grow.
Yeah, well, the rising tide raises all ships, right?
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, to go out with you on Bar Harbor Whale Watch, what do people do? Call, website, just show up?
Yeah, all those things. Right now it's the boat isn't selling out, so you can just show up the day of and get a ticket. It's great to call ahead if you want to know what we've been seeing, or if you want to check on the weather to make sure that it is a good day. And of course, for whale watching, if that's your goal, the weather is key to a good whale watch. If you pick a nice weather day, no matter what happens, you're going to have a wonderful trip.
Yeah.
So if you're from Maine especially, I would encourage people to really pay attention to the marine forecast. Look for a day when there's not a lot of wind and it's a 2 to 4 foot sea, and even calmer than that, 1 to 3, and you'll have an amazing time.
Yeah, because that boat's big enough it won't even notice 1 to 3.
Nope, it doesn't.
Okay, at the end of the summer, people along the lower Penobscot River are going to get quite a big surprise. So what is this? Tell me. I mean, you're going to hear more about it later on this summer anyway. Let's just start it off right now. What are you going to do?
Oh, we have a trick up our sleeve. We're always coming up with something new. And this year we've decided to do a Bar Harbor to Bangor trip. Up the Penobscot River, get to Bangor and have lunch delivered or to the boat in Bangor. And along the way, we're going to visit 10 lighthouses. We're going to have the Castine Historical Society on board, the Friends of Fort Knox on board, and of course, you'll be our host. So we'll have all the bases covered. We're hoping the Penobscot Restoration Trust will be on board that have done so much wonderful work to open up the Penobscot. So it's going to be a fantastic trip. I've never personally gone up the Penobscot, so I'm really excited to do it.
What date is it?
It is September 10th.
September 10th. Yeah. And is it going to be an all-day thing, half-day? How do you? Well, I mean, that's a bit of a distance to get around from Bar Harbor where you're docked up the river.
Yeah, it's about 140 miles, and we think it's going to take the whole thing about eight and a half hours.
Yeah.
It's our boat is a jet powered catamaran. It's big, it's comfortable, and it can go 30 miles an hour. So we're not going to go fast the whole time, but when we want to, we can.
Well, that boat can lay rubber.
Yeah.
That's the fast boat. So how fast will they let you go upriver? Do you have anyone told you how fast you're allowed to go?
Well, the interesting thing is when that boat is up to speed, it actually throws less of a wake than if you run it at half speed. And then the boat sits down in the water. So I assume that we'll do whatever we need to. If there's other boats on the water, of course the captains are going to slow down. But it's probably better for us. Of course we also don't want to race up the river, so we want to see it. We want people to enjoy it. So
if there are other boats in the river, they're all going to say, "What the hell?
What is that doing here?
Are they lost?"
Absolutely.
Well, that's going to be a real capstone to the summer. September 10th, Bar Harbor Whale Watch, day-long event that'll go by 10 lighthouses and then up the Penobscot River to Bangor. That's I don't know who came up with that idea. Was it you?
Actually, our general manager.
Did he really?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, he did.
Well, this better work then.
Yeah. Yep. And then he told me to do it.
That's Zach Kleiber, Bar Harbor Whale Watch. They've just opened for the season, and I've already been on the boat once. Really, there's nothing else like it in Maine. This September, they'll be cruising over from Bar Harbor, passing 10 historic lighthouses, and motoring up the Penobscot to Bangor. I'll be hosting, Zach will be guiding and announcing, and between the two of us, this is going to be one of the more unique experiences this company's ever given you. I'm looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to next week's show. Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine airs every Saturday morning at 9 and Sunday morning at 8. Plus, this show and all previous shows are archived online at 929theticket.com. Brought to you by Hammond Lumber, Doors Equipment, Napa Auto Parts, EBS, and a Supercuts location near you. This is Sports Radio 929 The Ticket.